Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are taking on Beatrix's Intersecting Will's Shinryu fight. And this is kind of a fun one because I got to bring my girl Krile back. So Krile's been kind of chilling for a while, but this boss is an elemental lockout, so you have to use either lightning damage or neutral damage. So I didn't have to bring Krile here, but I really wanted to utilize Beatrix's FR, and we need thunder damage in order to do that, right? So by having Krile, we can enchant Jack Garland, and then Jack Garland is getting thunder damage, which is pretty nice here. And we bring Jack Garland just for the beefy damage here, right? So, I mean, we'll be real. Jack Garland is really the one putting in the work here, but Beatrix is awesome, and I gotta show off my snowboard, right? We got my cool snowboard, my first ever weapon skin that I bought in this game. Rose Petals is awesome too. Just the way that it deals very heavy damage. Is defense ignoring, which is good, and it dispels, which is awesome. So you can see that's really, for like a counter attack, that's like 500k. So during force time, those rose petals get pretty nutty, and they're doing like 20% or whatever, because yeah, just crazy insane. Like, you know, when Beatrix attacks, she gets 20%, and then the rose petals does a bunch of HP percent. It's very good, very good. It was kind of nice to bring Krile back here. Now Krile is a really good example of something you could, she's an example of my force shenanigans, okay? So those of you, many of you know Krile is a very, very early force character, right? And so I obviously got her because she was cool, she was new, whatever. She was, you know, she can force charge a little bit, right? But she fell off very quick in terms of her actual force weapon, right? So like you wouldn't ever use her force time right now, anyways. But what it was I obviously maxed her force weapon because it was a very early one, so I wanted to, you know, max out the cool new things, right? But later on, I needed high power stones, and I had actually, when I got Krile's FR, I'm like, oh, she's equipped with the FR, so I actually sold her EX weapon too. So when I sold her FR weapon later on, because I needed to sell it to get some high power stones, Krile was in my box with a bronze weapon. Like, she had nothing, like no weapon. But here's the cool thing. She still has all of her weapon passives, right? Still has the FR. So all I had to do for this fight is just throw the Ultima weapon on her, and it's like, Krile's a god. Like, the best version of Krile you could have, because she still has, even if I wanted to use her force, she's got her full force and everything. She's really, really missing out on nothing. So if you have any of these like little side characters that's like, yeah, I don't really use them that much, but I got their force weapon, like, you really could sell it if you wanted to. And even if you save the EX weapon, like Krile, ideally I would have just had her equipped with the EX weapon, but hey, I had the max out Ultima weapon. As long as I'm not running 2 staff users in the team, even if I was running 2 staff users, as long as the other one has their main weapon, doesn't matter, right? So that's kind of the nice thing, is you really can, I mean, technically, if you're really willing to commit to an Ultima weapon, like, you could sell a character's full kit if you wanted to, provided you maxed out all the weapons, and really just rely on the Ultima weapon. I don't recommend you all do that. And obviously some weapons, like, I believe burst weapons that have any ignits are unsellable. Like, you can't sell them. Maybe they'll change that in the future, but as of right now, they're unsellable. I actually wouldn't mind being able to sell burst back for burst ingots. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, they actually don't allow you to sell those, and obviously ultimate weapons can't be sold, but they can be dismantled once a month, so that is something you could do. So here we are, we're going into our force time, so the enemies are about 40% to their force. Now this one I do think takes me a couple force times, because I'm still trying to figure out the fight, right? I don't think I get this done in one try, and I would say that, you know, for the way I tackle this fight, I feel like Garland's force probably would have just been better to use here, but I wanted to use the Beatrix, right? So there we go, lightning damage, getting decent percentage there, 43 from Krile, not the greatest, but it's something, right? But what we want is, we want the rose petals. Now, the one thing is, Krile did de-synergize with the fight a little bit, because she actually paralyzes, and the paralyze doesn't happen often, it's just every time she uses the LD. So I just try to keep it in my mind like, alright, I'm going to try not to paralyze them so much now, because I actually want them to get turns. I want them to trigger the rose petal trap, so that we can get that HP percentage up higher, right? So Garland's like, alright, let's just do some stupid damage and beat you down really quick here. I mean, Garland just does so much damage, right? Just craziness. And obviously, the other reason I wanted to bring Beatrix, and this is a no-friend run, because I'm just trying to get all the rewards. I didn't even pay attention to if they did the the extra rewards for not bringing a friend. I just assumed they did. I actually still to this moment don't even know because I never like went and checked to see if I got those extra 30 tickets. But whatever, ran it without a friend, and that's fine. But you can see Krile has aged a little bit. She still does okay damage, and her battery's really good. Like Krile's not a bad character, but Krile will get a rework at some point and be like a lot better. Because they're gonna do the big FR upgrades, I think, actually fairly soon. I think like Kane might be one of the first ones that gets it. But they're basically like the Force boards, or Force Echo, I think it's called. But that's coming, and it's going to be a way to make Force times, like these older Force times, more relevant, right? So if you have some of these old Force characters, they're going to get good again in terms of their actual Force time. And then characters are always getting reworks, which is nice, right? So like an example here with the Beatrix event, you know, Lightning didn't get any new weapons or anything, but she got a nice little rework, right? Just to bring her up to par. That's probably one of my favorite things about DFFOO. It's just, no matter who you invest in or when you invest in them, you know at some point your investment's going to pay off, right? And a character is going to be good. So like right now, it's like, I know a lot of new players come in and they're like, oh, I got Squall, because they give them like that intro banner, right? And I think it's got Squall, Lightning, and like Cloud on it, I think, something like that. And, you know, Squall, to me, like, he just isn't that good right now. But if you get him and you invested in him, because a new player doesn't know any better, it's like, oh, it's Squall, he's cool, I'm going to max him out, right? Well, eventually he will get an FR, and he does get upgrades, and he does become really good again. So even if you're like a new player and you maybe invested in a character that wasn't that great right now, it doesn't mean it's a bad investment, because later on that character could be really good, right? So that's what I like about the game. You know, as a player who's been playing since launch, I've been through all the eras, right? 15 CP era, 35 CP era, EX, right? And at whatever point I invested in a character, there was at least 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 points in the game where they were meta relevant, right? Unless you're Thancred. Thancred, poor Thancred, is just never meta relevant here, right? So we're almost, you know, we're kind of getting to the end, but I did put a good chunk of damage down. We did throw down the summon at the end. I'm going to do a shock right here. Get as much damage as I can on these trees. The thing, I think the trick with these trees, and the reason why I brought Garland, right, is that these trees put like really, they start on fire, and they get these really meaty Brave Shields, right? And if you can't get those Brave Shields down, like your characters literally do like no damage. But if you break them, it kind of like breaks through the shield, and then you're kind of good to go. And Garland's got like an auto break on his LB. And Garland just does like a lot of brave hits and can get through those shields fairly quickly anyways, right? So that's kind of why I brought Garland. I just needed some big beefy boy to get through the shields. So yeah, we're just going to kind of ramp into another Force time, and then we're going to kind of be good to go from there. And pretty much finish these trees off, right? Now, it's kind of interesting because these trees, we've seen these before, right? And what it would be in the past, and I don't know if these ones act the same, I didn't really test it out, but it used to be if you used like water or ice, it would actually put out the fire. But I don't think that works here, because I thought I tested and I used like an ice call or something, and the fire stayed on. So I think you literally have to break through the shields, right? And then once you break through the shields, you're good. And they do a bit of HP damage, so having some healing is good, and obviously Beatrix helps with that, right? She's got a lot of HP regen. So Krile's got Ray of Hope. We can use that just to, like, basically I think with Krile, I'm like, alright, let's just ramp up into another Force really quick. Because she has a Force Charger. Just a, you know, she doesn't have a ton of skill uses of it, but she can charge a little bit. Once again, I think she's a very fun character. I mean, I remember early in the day, though, it was like, I think I used her in her fight and then, like, Dare to Defy, which, please bring back Dare to Defy, please. Please, Squex, please bring it back. It would be a great way to use more characters and have incentive to do that. But Krile was just, to me, overshadowed by Penelo for Force Charging. Like, I just brought Penelo. During this time frame, like, Penelo was, like, my staple. Like, my team was basically, like, Penelo, Damage Dealer, and then, like, third slot unit. That was pretty much my team building in early Force era. And I actually just talked about Penelo. I just did a top 10 list of my, you know, top 10 favorite units of the year. So if you want to check that out, it's on my channel. I thought since it's New Year's, a lot of content creators like to do like yearly top 10. So I thought it'd be fun. So it's kind of a fun video to make. And there's been some interesting comments. You know, some people agreeing, maybe disagreeing, or wondering why certain characters aren't on the list, things like that. I think it's all fun, good discussion. I made it a point to label that video my personal top 10 and not like an actual tier list. Because the moment you say tier list, people will immediately like have opinions. And nobody ever, I don't think anybody ever agrees on a tier list, right? For example, if I was just looking overall at DFFOO right now, I think you could make an argument for Jack Garland, Tifa, Renoa, like any of those to be the number one. But then I can also see like Luna Freya being number one. I could see Selphie being number one just because of how useful she is, right? So I think characters just all have such different roles. It's so hard to compare each character one for one against each other. I'm more of a person that if I'm going to rank units, I like ranking them in like a tier rather than ranking them one for one against each other. I say this for DOKKAN as well, right? So for example, in DFFOO, I would say Garland, Tifa, Renoa, Luna Freya, whatever, like they're all in like the Z tier or like the top tier. Or I think even in DFFOO, and kind of the way I structured my top 10 list was even for like a certain type of unit. So we could say like Garland, Tifa, Renoa are the best DPS units in the game, and they're on the top tier DPS, right? Luna Freya and Selphie might be top tier support characters, right? Garnet might be up there, right? Things like that. So that's the way I like to rank units a little bit, right? But anyways, we've got a fight going on. I think we're getting pretty close here. Oh, what was I checking for here? Oh, I don't remember what I was checking for. That was something I was trying to see if Krile did, or if she had a certain buff on. I don't even remember what I was looking at right there, but oh, I was looking to make sure everybody had Noble Loyalty on, because I had Beatrix up. So I used Thunder Slash here, because I think Krile was actually missing Noble Loyalty. So I did Thunder Slash to refresh it. I knew it was looking pretty scary there with the enemies with the purple numbers, but I knew I had some sap going. And so luckily we mitigated just enough damage, but you see, the shields get pesky because we can't get at their Brave. Krile did throw down a Paralyze, which actually is kind of nice right now, just because the enemies are getting pretty nasty. And now Garland, what we can do is we can LD here, and that should auto-break. Yep, LD, and then this should auto-break, and then it just kind of takes care of the shields. And then now we can, I mean, the shields are still there, but now we can do damage. We can just, like, break through. So, yeah, Garland is now going to allow us to do nasty damage, and we're in the force time. But we do need to get some healing, right? Like, Beatrix's health is actually making me a little nervous because we still have an HP requirement to meet, right? So we go ahead and pop the LD here. I know it's going to paralyze again, but at this point I'm just like trying to be safe because like we're on the verge of death with Beatrix and we don't want that to happen. And we even got an interruption attack. Still survived it, barely. But it's like, alright, we need some healing, right? So I think I popped the AA here with Beatrix just to go, yeah, just a little bit of healing, like please. And it does bump the gauge up a little bit, right? And I think we just go into attack mode, because I think our HP is, like, pretty close to being okay for the threshold to, like, beat fight. But this is something I talk about all the time, like, in terms, like, when I talk about bringing calls, I'm always like, yeah, bringing one healing call isn't the worst idea, because you'll get in situations like this, where, like, we're about to end the fight, and they've just hit us for some, like, damage that's putting us under that HP threshold, right? So it's like, alright, I don't think I'm going to kill these guys on this hit. I'm like, I got to do something pretty quick to make sure everybody's healed up. See, the thing with Beatrix, it's not like she's full of burst heal attacks. It's all, like, HP regen stuff. So I kind of just, like, need my characters to take turns to kind of heal it back. So that's the one bad part about HP regen. It's really hard if you just need, like, quick HP on the spot. But I think between everybody healing up here a little bit, we're pretty darn close to getting it done here. And we're going to go on EX for the Brave gains. We always like those Brave gains. Yes. And then, yeah, they just keep coming. Like, look at the HP attacks, man. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like pretty low and I need some burst. So this would have been a great spot, like if I had a burst heal. So I'm like, Holy Knight Safeguard, we'll take that. And he dies. But, thankfully, the HP threshold was fairly generous. We actually still survived within. So you'll see here, I do get all the rewards for getting this mission done. So definitely could have been, like, this kind of was an ugly fight. Like, it wasn't super clean. I could have been a lot more optimal with it. This was me kind of just jumping in with the team and trying to get it done. Definitely could have had, like, a better healer with her. But it was kind of cool to bring Krile along. She's a character I haven't used very much. So anyways, guys, let me know how this fight went for you. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.